everybody, it's me, your pandemic professor, Scotty Vico. I'm back. You saw me this morning, probably for a few minutes, when I was just in a blood battle against the computer to try and get audio to transmit through virtual classroom to you. I thought for sure we were going to overcome those technical difficulties, but what can I say, man? Sometimes the cute computers declare war against us, the human race. And at least at first, they're going to win. Like, I saw Terminator 2. I know the way this whole thing works. But I Sarah Connored this thing, and we've got it to a point now where things are transmitting and it's making a lot more sense. So, I put up a couple videos for you about compressors. I talked about my 3 favorite compressors in Studio B and gave you a lot of good information on those specific models. That'll be useful when you're in Studio B in just a week or so and actually have your hands on those things and are using them to your benefit. However, I also needed to complete the conversation that we started about time-based effects. As you know, we spent a long time talking about reverb, but I had to get into delay. So, let's head over to Pro Tools so that I can start talking about delay with you. And here we are. I've started a session for us. You know me, I'm sitting at home making beats, and this is where the beat is right now. It's definitely lacking something, but let's kind of hear what we've got so that we can figure out what to do after this. Here I bring in some weird bass synths. So you can kind of see where we are there. Now that's interesting for sure, but it needs something to give it some to intensify the pulse of that. Usually when you've got a lot of fast information happening like that, we've got those really fast sort of trappy hats in there. We've got those weird syncopated mallets of whatever kind, that marimba or whatever that is. We need something to give it a really steady, hard pulse. And in this case, kind of what I have in mind is like just a big drum, just a big boom, 3, 4, boom, maybe on beat 1, or maybe on beat 3, 1, 2, boom, 4, 1, 2, boom. I think I like that idea. So we're going to do this as a virtual instrument because I don't happen to own a giant Asian drum like I sort of have in my mind here. So going over to Pro Tools, we will use our key command for new track. Hopefully you're saying in your head right now that that's Shift Command N. And when I hit Shift Command N, it brings up the new track dialog. Let me drag that onto our screen. I'm going to leave it mono. You say, why would you do that? Because I have an idea in my head. I want to make each pulse sort of oscillate between the two, or vacillate between the two ears. Between the two speakers. So I'm going to make it a mono instrument track in this case. And I'm going to use the free Pro Tools instrument. Oh, hold on. No, I don't want boom. I'm going to use the free Pro Tools instrument that is called Expand 2. Now, Expand 2 is something that if you own Pro Tools, even if you own Pro Tools first, I believe you get Expand 2. However, we should specify it's a separate software download. So let's call this BA Drum. That's what I've got in my mind, is a BA Drum. It's a separate download. So when you download and install Pro Tools, it probably, if you try to load Expand 2, you will see a gray window that says like something like the library isn't available or something to that effect. If you go into your Avid Master account, you have to actually separately download your Pro Tools First plugins. Even if you're on the paid full version of Pro Tools, the Air plugins that are called First, you get those. And then you have to download Expand 2, and then you have to download your Air instruments as well. Those are, in addition to installing Pro Tools, those are 3 things that should show up and as being available to you. Here, let's open my Pro Tools, my Avid Master account so you can see where these things are if you want them, and of course you do. Go to My Avid. I'll drag this window over here. See if this loads here, if my internet can handle this sort of task. So what you would do is after this loads, you would go to My Products and find products not yet downloaded. And you would choose those things, Expand 2 and Air Instruments and Air, it's called something to the effect of like Air First or something like that, which are your Pro Tools First plugins. Okay, so back to Expand 2 because it is a fascinating piece of software. Has some great preset factory defaults. I'm going to go into that menu. I mean, truly hundreds, if not in close to 1,000 factory sounds. I'm going to go into the percussion menu. And I mean, right here, I've got big drums. It says big drum 1, big drum 2, but I know kind of what I'm looking for because I've used this before. I want taiko drums, which sound like those giant Asian drums that sort of stand on their side and people beat them with giant mallets, right? And on this track, in order for this to make noise, I'm going to have to enable the track itself. I'm going to set my view to notes so that I can use my pencil tool. And friends, if you do not remember the key command for pencil tool, you better get that in your head. We don't use our pencil tool much, but I'm drawing in MIDI data right now. I'm not going to play it with my MIDI controller because I know it's just going to be every 3rd beat. I think that's what I decided. Every 3rd beat, I'm going to put a thing. So let me zoom in here. Scroll on over. I'm in grid mode. That's important. I've got my grid, as you can see up here. My grid is set to quarter notes. So I can just come into every beat 3 and say, I want drum here. Listen. Ooh, that's nice, isn't it? And maybe the next one I'll make it a lower pitched drum. They're not really pitched, but you know, they definitely have a fundamental in there that can be either lower or higher. That one's lower. 3rd measure, we'll make it somewhere in between. I like varying it up so that your ears don't exactly always know what's coming. There we go. I've got 4 measures of that. Let's listen to that and kind of see what we've got. I'm going to make it the loudest thing in the session for sure. And let's kind of hear that. Yeah, that's doing the trick. That's doing the thing that I want it to do. However, it does kind of get lost in the space and the reverb of everything else. So in order to make it a little more definable and interesting to listen to, let's kind of bounce it back and forth. Every other hit will be in a different headphone or a different speaker. So I'm going to go to my pan automation. Oh, I made this stereo. I intended to make this mono, but stereo's fine. I'll just have to do pan left and pan right. So here we go. I'll take the 2nd hit, send it all the way to the right, and the 4th hit, send it all the way to the right, and then I'll go into my pan right automation, take the 1st and 3rd hit and send them all the way to the left. 1st and 3rd, all the way to the left. Let's listen to that. Let's see what we've got now. That's working, although I can tell looking at OBS here that I'm clipping every time that thing hits because I've got it turned up definitely too loud for sure. It's definitely too loud for the mix. but I just wanted to hear what I was doing. And this whole idea of panning back and forth is working, so I'm plenty happy right now. I'm actually going to take that same idea and I'm just going to select those measures, everything from here to here, and just use my key command for repeat, which is Option R if you forgot that. Maybe we haven't even covered that yet, but Option R is repeat. Now I have to tell it how many times I want it to repeat. This isn't quite 10 measures. I've got 4 measures already. I only need another, I only need to repeat this probably 3 or 4 times. Let's repeat it 4 times and see what we've got. Yep, that's even a little much. So I can go in here and get rid of that last section. Let's see if this works. Let's just see what we hear. I'll be honest, I think I like that, man. I think it's cool. That did the thing I wanted it to do. But now that it's hard left and right, it feels really isolated. It feels really close. And it might be even more rhythmically interesting. We've got the pulse now, but what if we gave it some repetition? What if we gave it some repeat? And there are definitely going to be a few other things as I continue building this beat that are going to get some delay on them. So let me create, you know what I'm doing, that's Shift Command N here. Let me create a stereo aux input. So I want a stereo aux input, create that. I'm going to call this delay. Trying to drag all of the pop-up windows over to my secondary screen so you can see them as well. I'm going to call this delay. And put an interesting delay plugin on this. The one that we tend to use because it is our free stock Pro Tools plugin is Mod Delay 3. It's very tweakable. Some of those other free delays, you know, you've just got to rely too much on presets that do some things we don't need them to do. I can make Mod Delay 3 do anything I want. And in this case, the thing that I want is boom, 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 something to that effect. So what is that? I really don't need it to be stereo is the truth. I kind of want the same thing on both sides because the dry signal is already bouncing back and forth. I want the wet to kind of stay centered. So I'm going to make both left and right the same. And I think what I want is a triplet. So we'll select our 3 there for triplet. A triplet 8th note, or maybe it's a triplet 16th note that I'm after. Let's listen to this. In order to make this work, I'm going to have to, we're going to flip to our mix window for a second. I'm going to have to set an input to my new delay that I've just created. So I'll use a bus for this. You remember how we set this up. I'll use bus 3-4. It's the first available bus. And then I'm going to give all of my tracks a send that goes out bus 3-4. Just like so. I'm going to rename that so that I can remember what it is, because this mix is probably going to get crazy by the time it's done. I am going to right-click on that send and rename it delay bus, just so later if I want to put delay on something and I've got a whole bunch of sends happening in this mix, I know what's what. That's my delay bus. And you can see now when I did that, changed the name of all of those sends, but it also changed the name of the input because that is one path. It starts here at the send and it ends here at the input. I'm going to hide these sends I'm not using real quick. To hide sends like that, or to hide anything on your window, you can hold Option and click on it. Just got rid of that. And by command clicking the little arrow beside the delay bus, that's now going to give me the ability to pull this up, kind of hear what I want. Let's hear if this is right. All right, let's make this longer. Let's make it a quarter note. I mean, that's kind of what I had in mind. We're going to make it a quarter triplet now. Pop, 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 just like that. Let's see what this sounds like. That is rhythmically correct, but what I don't have are the repeats that I want. Right now it's going pop, pa, pop, pa, pop, pa, and what I want is pop, pop, pa, pop, pop, pa. So what I'm going to change here, I set my timing by synchronizing this delay to the tempo of the song. If I hadn't, I'd have to calculate how many milliseconds this delay was. In this particular case, a triplet quarter note is 333 milliseconds because my session tempo is set to 120 beats per minute. That is, you can tell that I threw this together in a hurry because that is the default Pro Tools session tempo. I didn't even bother changing that, but I like what I got here. I like the things that I did. But how do I get more repeats? That's what we're after. I've got my time right. I want more repeats. So, what I'm going to do, we're going to link the left and right, because exactly what I do to the left, I want to do to the right as well. And in order to get more repeats, what we actually have to do is take the output of the delay and send it back to the input of the delay. So the repeat repeats. You understand what I'm saying? And every time it repeats, it's getting a little bit quieter, so it gently fades into the background. And the name for that is feedback. So on this particular plug, I've got a feedback control right here, and I can start dialing it up. Let's just start with it at maybe 26 and hear what that sounds like. And that's almost exactly what I wanted. And just so you can really hear what's happening, I'm going to solo isolate the delay and then solo this drum. Just so you can really hear what I'm listening to. This is what it sounds like by itself. Now, truthfully, there are delays in there that go beyond. I just wanted boom, 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 boom. But those extra delays, because they're getting quieter as they go, they kind of get lost in the mix, especially when I turn this track back down to unity or maybe just a little bit above that. You won't hear those last couple delays, that extra feedback. I think I've got this about where I like it. Yeah, it's nice. So really, when we're talking about delay, there are two controls that you were concerned with. Primarily, the two things you can adjust on a delay are time, how long between each repeat, and feedback, how many repeats do you hear. And truly, feedback is just taking the output and routing it right back to the input. Hope that made sense to you. We've got more that we can do on this track, and I might even modulate those repeats a little bit. This Mod Delay 3 actually has a nice little modulation feature so that you can sort of change the tonal characteristics of the repeats to make them stand out a little bit more in the mix. I don't know if we need it, but let's listen. Yeah, I kind of like that actually. It's not much. You can go too far pretty easily. But I like what we've got there for sure. Boom, boom, boom. So here's with and solo the drum. Here's with the delay. Here's without. It's funny, you can hear the pans automate back and forth, but generally you understand the difference between these two things, and I feel like we're doing all right. When it comes to delay, what are the things that matter to us? Time and feedback. Those are our primary concerns. All right, this has been my video. Hope you enjoyed it. That is delay in a nutshell. It's time to bounce. Scott Velasco fading out.